We are going to start our study session, and welcome back to the year 2020. I want to welcome our Youth Advisory Committee. Thank you for being a part of your government. All righty, I have item 8A, the local law, and I am going to call that ready. And I will know on Monday for item 9. Councilor Bay.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items number 10 through 13. Mr. Kearney, how are you?
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm Owen Kearney with the city's planning division. Numbers 10 and 13 are related, not necessarily companion items, but regarding the same matter. Number 10 is a contract extension with Saratoga Associates. They are our designers for a project we're working on. I know many of you are familiar with in Meacham Park at the intersection of Onondaga Creek and Seneca Turnpike. It's a project we intend to build this season, this summer, and they're the designers responsible for it. We've submitted our permits. There's some remaining things to be done on that project, and we want to keep Saratoga Associates on board to complete that work. No increase in cost or anything like that, just a time increase for their contract. Any questions on number 10?
No question? All right. I'll call item 10 ready at 13 as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item number 11. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamadola, zoning administrator. Item 11 is a special permit for a restaurant at 308 Gifford, 515 and 517 Wyoming, and 620 Southwest Street.
It's good seeing you again, Mrs.
Thank you, Councilor. I've been looking forward to this day.
Particularly fitting that we're here again. Once again, it's like I've never left.
Same
This
seat and
required 7 waivers.
Yes.
And is there an encroachment issue still to be
There is.
addressed?
They have applied, but the encroachment will come before you.
Okay. This has significant neighborhood opposition. We've seen that in 3 different, you had 3 different public hearings on it?
Yes, this started in August, 2 in August, and then the applicant was revising their plans and came back in December.
Okay. Since there are, I think in my whole history with the city council, 4 terms, I never seen one, in fact, I know 7 waivers ever granted specifically to one particular entity. I'm not asking you for a history lesson or anything like that, but I just never seen that. So I would ask Councilor Bay if we could ask the Planning Commission to reconsider these waivers and send it back to the Planning Commission.
Any other? I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Exactly. All right.
Joe?
Item number 12.
Item number 12, this is a special permit for a restaurant at 505 North State Street, and this was a previous restaurant and is reopening. It's a different entity.
Okay.
Yes.
You good? All right. I'll call that item ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
13.
Only did 13 at the same time.
Oh, okay.
It's ready.
So that's done. Thank you. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 14 and 15. Item 14, Dave.
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm Dave Perwack, Director of IT. Number 14 is an amendment to a contract with a company by the name of Sierra Cedar. They provide consulting services to us for Hyperion. Hyperion is our budgeting software. And that contract commenced, I think it was December of 18. We just need an extension. The project's gone a little longer than we anticipated. There's no change to the amount being spent, no change to the budget line, just the extension of the contract.
For a year? You're extending for a year?
To June 30th. We expect all the work to be finished before then, but we built in a little bit of time in there. Okay?
Any questions?
Thank
Call
you.
it ready. Item 15, Dave Delvecchio.
Councilors, Dave Delvecchio, Commissioner of Finance. This item relates to an organization, Hammer, that the county did an RFP a few years ago. And as you know, we've been working with the county over the past year to introduce new tax software. And this agreement is between us and Hammer to allow them to do online tax processing. There's been no cost to the city for the hardware, the installation of the software, and there will be no cost going forward. Online tax processing, the user will pay the merchant fees associated with using their credit card. So again, there's no cost to the city. This is the formalizing agreement between the city and Hammer, who was retained by the county. So I hope, I'll take any questions.
Councilor Driscoll.
Yeah, well, so when you say most of the cost is passed on to the,
All.
all the cost
all the
is passed on to the consumer. What is the, I don't know, do we know percentage or amount that goes?
It's no more than 3%. Currently, at this time, we're using Systems East, and the rate is 3%. I believe
So the rate is similar?
approximately 3%, correct. Yes.
And is it not pronounced Hamer?
We're gonna call it the hammer because we're collecting taxes.
We're going Hammer? Okay.
All right. Following Councilor Rudd's interpretation.
Yeah, according to Councilor Rudd's interpretation, it's Hammer. Okay.
It's ham and so unless somebody tells me otherwise, it's gonna be hammer.
Okay.
If they want. The only thing I would say is with the fees, if you're able to pay with an e-check, it's way cheaper. So it's like $1.25 if you pay that way, and it's like a fixed percentage if you pay with a credit card. So if you're out there, pay with an e-check. What's that? I don't really know that. I don't know. I always worry about the credit card fee because I don't think they're that high.
All righty.
All set?
Thank you. Counselor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 16.
Hi, Happy New Year. Ann Fordak from DPW. This is just a renewal with Okra for disposal of solid waste. There was no change in the tipping fee, and it's for 1 year. Do you have any questions?
Is there any other changes to it other than tipping?
To the Okra contract? No, not for us. And should I move on to 17?
You said it's remaining the same? Static?
Yeah, the tipping fee is the same. They held it, so thank you, those of you on the Okra board.
Are we always what's their timely payer? They give that discount, the 91 versus 95?
Yes, we always get the prompt payment discount, correct.
Okay. Item 17.
17, and this is an agreement with New York State to get a plow from the federal government. It's up at Fort Drum. Actually, it's a dump truck, and we're just paying some requisition fees, but essentially they're giving us the truck, and we have to keep it for a certain amount of time.
Do you know when we would get it?
Today.
Okay.
I had people go up and get it today.
Well, how does
So
that
it's
work?
en route.
Okay. Because we haven't voted on it yet. Is that?
What's that?
We haven't voted on it yet. Is that an issue?
Oh, we had to act very quickly. So we had a couple of hours, actually. Basically, somebody else was going to get it, and then they said they couldn't come and pick it up, and Fort Drum contacted us, and you said, you have like hours to fill out this piece of paper if you want this truck.
Sounds like free cycle.
So are we able to, just because, obviously I read it where you were responsible for the maintenance of it, is there an ability to like inspect it? Do we know what the condition it's in before we do it? Or?
They told us it was drivable, and that just to come ready to drive it away, and such as we're driving it now, so they met that requirement.
Okay.
It's not as old as most of our fleet, so.
And to that point, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we had asked previous that when you're doing vehicles, that we need to have the old vehicles that's being swapped out with the mileage, the year,
Yep.
and all that good
Corey's
stuff.
got it ready.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
And then I guess the last question is, is this piece of equipment, like our guys are trained on it, we don't have to worry about any of that? know how to use it and maintain it?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on item 17?
This paper that you just handed us, the average life of the listed unit is 10.28 years. These are the units you're retiring? What are these? These are all the trucks you have?
These are the trucks that we currently use for snow and ice. That's it.
It should
How many are on it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14.
About 24. 24.
So we're going to replace half, or like almost, whatever, 10 out of 24?
Yeah.
Which 10?
You want me to pick the 10?
No, I don't know, but I'm just trying to show you. You just handed us a sheet.
I understand.
And obviously it's hard to process it immediately, but I also think it would hard, even if I sat down in a library and looked, I think it's hard. There's not a lot of info in it unless it's explained.
Well, the data is we got 11 trucks that are 13 years and older. You figure that out where it's just we don't just use them in the winter. We use them also in summertime and in the spring to pick up yard waste. So
that are 13 or more old? Is that
11?
11 or
13 years and older.
That are more than 13 years.
More than 13 years. 13 years ago was two.
And that's, like I said, dual purposes. For winter, we don't even drive some of us don't even drive our cars 13 years and older. So you figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Item 18.
18 is an agreement with New York State Thruway Authority for 2 snowplows to lease them. They were gracious enough to call us and help us out with this. We asked them if they could help out, and they're actually going to help us out for the winter and lease these 2 trucks for us at no cost, just to maintain their existing trucks.
And then, do we know when these will arrive?
As soon as you say yes.
Thank you.
That's the question.
Do we know the condition of these trucks?
They're in great condition. Our superintendent went over there and actually test drove them, as well as our head of the garage.
So, Commissioner, how many plows, how many plows do we have now?
24.
24. How many plows are on the road?
Right now?
It's not broken.
That are not broken?
Mm-hmm.
On any given day, we got today 17.
On the road.
Right now.
Okay. And the other ones, are they irreparable, or are they being repaired?
Yeah, our mechanics are working on them. Some of them are shipped out to to our service garage that we partner with. So they're getting fixed. It's just, we can't keep them on the road with, we got these trucks that are 13 years and older. I mean, it's kind of tough to put Band-Aids. Some of the parts are obsolete. I mean, we're beg, borrowing, and still trying to get parts for these trucks.
So out of the ones that's not in commission right now, these are the ones with the high mileage and the problem getting the parts in?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's coupled with, some of them are 2007s, some of them are 2011s. I mean, I couldn't get you that offhand. I can get that number to you, though.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, how old are these trucks from?
As dual, I mean, I see the comments, but we use them as dual purposes. That's the difference. That's hard, We use them 24/7.
All of these 24 trucks are used for trash and snow removal?
That's not trash. See,
I'm sorry,
Yard
debris, whatever the ultimate use.
We try to we try to leave the 4x4s as snow plows, but sometimes we can't. The 10-wheelers are all converted to dumps for yard waste. And that's what we're asking for, 10-wheelers. The next question, or the next thing on the agenda. Sorry to jump the agenda.
Okay. Well, I think it's helpful. I think obviously we need additional vehicles in our fleet, so I appreciate your guys' work on that.
I think it's probably a question for Corey, but the start of the fleet manager, and then can you explain purchasing a bunch of vehicles before the fleet manager position starts?
Sure. So we have hired a new director of fleet operations who's set to begin. His first day is going to be January 27th. So I'm happy to share with you, his background and resume and any information that you guys might want. I have had a conversation with him about the status of our fleet and have run by him the idea that we're looking to buy 10 new plows. And, he admitted, obviously he's not here yet, he hasn't started, he doesn't have the full picture, but looking at our snow and ice fleet, he said it makes sense. You've got trucks that are, 11 trucks that are more than 10 years old. And I think, as Commissioner Robinson alluded to, one of his goals will be to get a maintenance plan in place so that perhaps our trucks can be in better condition, almost as good as the Thruway going forward, so that we're not driving these into the ground until they just are exhausted. So he's aware of the plans in place, and he's starting at the end of this month.
Do we scrap them? Do we get money for scrap if we have
We
to scrap?
we often auction them off, yes.
What about the issue with mechanics? How we doing as far as mechanics go, Commissioner? I know you're down on them, right?
Yeah, you bring up the hot topic of mechanics, right? I mean, you know one?
No, I don't.
We're
I did come
welcome
back
them.
to the city, but I didn't foresee myself.
Yeah, so we're exploring options with the county right now see if we could figure out if we can come to an agreement where we can get help from them. But we're lacking on mechanics.
So no matter what the skill of the fleet manager, to be predicated on having people under him who could actually do the job, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so. Is there any kind of a chance of collaboration with the county, like actual collaboration where we could use their mechanics to help us out or anything like that?
I think that's what we're trying to explore.
Has the administration made any kind of efforts in that direction?
Yes, so we have, I've raised with the mayor and he'll be raising with the county executive, is there a way that we can collaborate on the mechanics, even if it's just in the short term? I mean, part of it is, obviously, as you know, there are a lot of factors that go into this. If we took better care of our equipment, perhaps the weight on our mechanics wouldn't be quite as heavy. That
Right.
being said, we're at where we're at, and we need mechanics that can fix these vehicles. And so, talking to the county, there are long-term plans, working with BOCES or working with other, but that doesn't solve the immediate problem like perhaps a partnership with the county could.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 19 and 20.
So 19 and 20 is it's basically us asking for capital equipment program where we're trying to purchase 10 new 10-wheel dumps, which is snow plows. 5 of them, I think, will be in January. They can get that done for us.
So the other question I have is, and I'm not an expert on the CHIPS program, but my general understanding is municipalities get an allotment from sale of throughway bonds, I guess. And so the question I have is, why pay for 5 and get 5 reimbursed? Why not buy 5 this year and 5 next year?
I'm gonna have to turn that over to Mary because I have not, knowledge on that.
You mean only go for 5 this year? I think it's just the condition of the fleet that we're, there are times where, I think as the commissioner alluded to, we'll start a storm with 20 and end in the single digits. So it's really, today to have 20 go up, 20 be up, and then have only 3 or 4 go down is a win. When really we think, realistically, we probably need 25 plows on the road. So we start with 20, and then we go down to 17, but there are times this winter where we've gone out with 20 and ended in the single digits by the end of the storm, which, not only public health and safety, but also it is not delivering the service that we need to do to the residents. So we just really think this is a critical point, and if we can get the state to pay for half of them, which is allowable under the CHIPS program, then why not take advantage of that and really replenish our fleet, because we're really at a crisis point.
So on the paying for this and the fire trucks that are coming up, in the past, we were just presented with the capital improvement plan by the budget director a couple weeks ago. And I think in the past we've had a finance meeting just to go over the capital improvement plan, but then I think that's like so high level that it's hard to do in a meeting. What I'm thinking is that either it could be Friday, I know that doesn't work for the budget director, or Monday, if you want it to go immediately, or it could be after Monday and on the next one. But I'd like to do a review of, like, probably a joint committee meeting with the respective public safety or DPW to just go over the capital plan for those departments to say basically how this fits into that, and just to provide the basically the baseline expectations. So I think one thing that we're trying all to do more is to say what is our baseline expectation moving forward, because we know some trucks are going to break, some trucks are going to get old, and then say what is our expectation for the next few years of what we will have to buy.
Right.
And hopefully this fits in a really sensible way. And we say, oh, okay, we get that we're, like, for that question of why 5 this year, why 10 this year instead of 5 this year, then we can say, well, because we need this now, and next year these other 2 or 5 trucks are going to need replacement.
Right.
And we can have more of a just understanding. So that would be my ask, is that we try to, so if you want it, I'm happy to do it Friday or Monday if you want it for the next session. And if you need more time, then we can move it forward that way.
I mean, you know, speaking off the cuff, I think we'd be prepared, because I know that time is of the essence, particularly for the fire trucks, you know, in terms of pricing that we've locked in and the amount of turnaround time to get the equipment. So we'd be happy to, Friday or Monday, we'll be ready whenever you'd like to have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 21.
Happy New Year, councilors. Mary Robison, city engineer. Item 21 is related to the TIP projects for the Hiawatha Boulevard Bridge Sidewalk Expansion or Improvement Project. We're also going to be nailing and paving Hiawatha Boulevard up to Solar Street. We're asking you to amend our contract with CNS Engineers to provide construction inspection services for $255,000 for a total agreement cost not to exceed $559,000.
Can you just say again the scope of it geographically? Where?
I believe we're basically where the bridge is. The sidewalk's not wide enough, so we're widening the sidewalk to go along with the creek walk.
Is this the bridge over 81?
This is the bridge over the creek. So basically, it's from, I believe, Van Rensselaer on Hiawatha up to Solar Street.
It's technically part of the creek walk, right? I mean, that
It
bridge,
is part of the creek walk, but the bridge itself is, the sidewalk is not trail size.
Very narrow.
Very narrow.
Yeah, so what are the goals there? Is it to widen it? Is there any other?
We're widening the sidewalk and milling and paving
the
street and adding bike lane.
And just, you know, my standard question, this doesn't qualify for Marcia Shelley.
We got Marchicelli for the design phase, and I'm hoping that we get it for the construction and inspection phase, but we won't hear until the spring.
15%?
If we get it, it would be 15%, yes. I'll come back to you with additional legislation if we get it, even if it's after the fact. We just got notified within the last few weeks that we got Marchicelli on the University Hill paving project that we finished last summer, so.
15%?
I believe so, yep. I'll be coming to council with that.
Okay.
So we're finding out, sometimes it depends, so we should be starting construction in the spring, assuming we get decent bids.
And then how long is the construction?
It'll be done 2020.
And then what happens in the interim when it's under construction? Is that portion of the creek walk closed, or?
I'll have to get back to you on that. Probably portions will be closed while we're under construction of the sidewalk in that area. Yes. The road, milling and paving, you know, we might have some lane closures, but it's going to be done in phases.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Item 22.
Item 22, we're asking for to appropriate cash capital for in the amount of $28,000 to replace our plotter scanner. This is our print machine, basically, that makes the large size maps, and it also scans any plans, large size plans, so that we can store them electronically.
How long does it last, Mary?
How long does it
We
last?
have now, how long have we had it?
We've had it almost 10 years. And the maintenance, they won't maintain it anymore. We can still use the plotter and get parts for that, but the scanner, I guess the technology is, they won't support it anymore. So we've had to, the plotters, something's wrong with it, and we keep having to buy different parts. So I had planned it anyway, but I decided I needed to go for it right now, so we don't waste more money.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 23.
Good afternoon, Councilors. Beth Smith from the Water Department. Item 23 is to enter into a contract with Cornell Cooperative Extension. This would be our 25th year having this contract, and the goal is to educate the homeowners and the farmers within the watershed on proper ways to keep the water quality maintained, involving septic system education, education on proper tree planting, shoreline erosion, preventing the sediment from entering into the lake. Any questions?
Yeah, so this is, I'd imagine this ties in very much with the algal bloom situation, correct?
Yes, it does. It does.
Has the budget remained the same? Has the effort to educate the public been any more robust, particularly in like the farmer agricultural area? Because that's a major contributing factor, as I understand, yeah?
That is definitely part of the education program. This past summer, we did have workshops within the watershed. We just had our annual meeting with ESF and informing the municipalities of the plan, the long-term plan and short-term plans for algae blooms. So the budget has actually has been maintained.
So it's remained pretty
consistent.
Consistently the same,
Yes,
yeah?
absolutely.
Just a quick question in regards to budget. Last year's budget, maybe state budget, somebody can probably correct me on the number or remind me. I know the governor had budgeted for, I can't remember if it was 41 million, a billion, I believe it was a B, specifically for water treatment and algae bloom research. Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And are we making any effort to try to tap into any of those funds for, and maybe it's more of a question for, if not for you, for Janet Burke or somebody?
Actually, we did just submit an application, a grant application up to $10 million. We did come to the council a few sessions ago for permission to enter into that agreement. Choose.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Paniagua.
Thank you, Madam
You like
President.
that, huh?
We're going to see item 24.
Good afternoon, councilors. Donna Briscoe with the Assistant Director with Personnel. The first item is an extension for our vision services. We have a contract with Davis Vision. We have an RFP that's out right now, and we're just asking for a 3-month extension until we can finish this process.
So it's not to exceed March 31st?
Correct. Yes. The committee is being selected, and we do have bidders that have proposed. We're just waiting for that process to finish out. When we initially sent the RFP, I think it was in July, there was an issue with some of the stuff that was submitted. We had to pull the RFP back and then reissue it. That's why there's the delay.
Any other questions? No? Moving on. All right, item 25.
This is the last renewal for UMR, formerly POMCO, for our health plan for the fire department, or for Fire Union. We're asking for you to approve the last extension for 1 year.
And then do they roll over to Excellus?
We are going to be meeting, and their contract will be up. We're going to be meeting with the union to hopefully come to that agreement, yes.
Are costs and services pretty much even?
They are very even. when we did have the bid go out and it was awarded to Excellus, the reason that the monetary was pretty even. We went with customer service. That was what gave the edge, so.
Any other questions? No? Then item 26.
This is our drug and alcohol testing services and OSHA bloodborne pathogens regulations. The contract has been with Well Now. We did the RFP, and it was the committee selected Well Now, and we're asking you to approve that.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Carney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 27, 28, 29.
You said it.
Good afternoon, Julie LaFave, Commissioner Parks and Recreation. Item number 27, we actually would like to show our support with this item. Upstate is actually applying for this grant for $10,000 for a wellness program. They would be working with us. The funds would be used for incentive for coming out and walking with us, but no funds would actually be coming to the city, and we are not actually applying.
And I'm reading this. The program is going to be held at Kirk. Is this for Kirk?
Yes, we're putting it together right now for the summer, but Kirk, I think, would be the main location, but we can expand it to other locations as well. And item number 28, we wish to amend an ordinance. No additional costs needed for this. Davey just did not complete the work in the 2-year time frame, so we were just asking to extend the contract until October 1st. And item 29 is being withdrawn.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Councilor Majoke.
Thank you, Madam
Like
President. It's great. So I have item 30 through 36. Item 30.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Michael Mons. I'm the fire chief. I met with Councilor Majuk last night. We talked about our need for these apparatus. I'm listening to what the conversations are with the DPW, and we're in the same predicament. Our fleet, since I've been here the last 2 years, the last mayor told Mayor Walsh that our fleet needed to be upgraded. We've been working hard for 2 years. We're at a crossroads right now. Just to go back, for the last 2 decades, there were 12 apparatus that we didn't buy that we should have bought. That probably estimated close to $11 million that wasn't invested in our fire trucks. At this same time period, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've condemned 8 of our fire trucks due to corrosion, due to different things with preventive maintenance, which we have addressed those situations with the preventive maintenance. We have a new program. We have pressure washers. We've done a bunch of training, and the way we've been ordering our apparatus now is going to assist us in keeping these apparatus on the road longer. Over the last 2 years, the apparatus that I have purchased, we have been taking old apparatus and refurbishing it using transmissions, old engines, the ladders. We've actually saved the city $1.3 million in the apparatus that we have already bought. One of the most alarming things that I want to tell you today, that because of the condition of our fleet, we have fire stations throughout the city. We are constantly in a predicament where we don't have any spares. So when an engine goes down, there's due to maintenance, there's neighborhoods that aren't being protected. That's happened several times in the last few weeks, where normally firefighters come into work, they don't have a fire truck to ride on. This request that I have in front of you, that will fix where we're at. If you guys okay this on Monday, and I strongly urge this to come to a vote on Monday, if this can come to a vote and we get these fire trucks and all the work we've been doing in 2 years, we will be at a safe, even place where we should be up to par with our fire trucks. And then if we just follow the recommended apparatus purchasing schedule, which we should be buying 2 engines 1 year, 1 ladder truck the next year, and if we just continue that and not fall off like we have previously, we'll never have to talk about that we're at this crossroads ever again. So there are a couple other things that I would like to say. The pricing of this apparatus that I have in front of you, we've locked in pricing for 2019. My team, my maintenance team, we work really hard on bringing in manufacturers. I've actually gone out to the 2 aerial towers. I went out and visited the plant. this particular fire truck. We've bought 27 of these fire trucks since the 70s. We currently have 8 in the fleet. It's very imperative that we continue to buy this fire truck. They're the only manufacturer that makes it. And what's unique about this fire truck that doesn't, the other manufacturers do not do, is we are able to carry 200 plus feet of ladders, ground ladders on these fire trucks. The new fire trucks, you can only carry less than half of that based on the power lines, the trees that are in our neighborhoods. We can't get aerial towers up. We have to physically, with our manpower, take these ground ladders and throw ladders to windows, and we do it constantly. In my 2 years, we throw ladders at every fires, but we've actually rescued people out of those windows with those ladders. We've had firefighters that have been trapped in attics that our firefighters throw these ladders up to get our firefighters out, and they were able to come down to safety. When the fire is burning and we can't go through the front door, we're able to throw the ladders, and sometimes we make entry to put the fire out. So this apparatus is very, very essential to get. These are critical buys that we must have. Yes.
How many ladder trucks do you have now?
We currently have, can you hold on for 1 second? I'm gonna call up some of my guys that are doing this stuff. John, come up a minute. So right now we have 5 of them in frontline service. 2 of them are 2001s. We just condemned one of them. One of them has 6 more months that they're gonna be condemned. Those are our spare apparatus, so when any of our frontline trucks go down, we don't have another fire truck to put our firefighters in. How many do we have right now of our aerial towers?
We have a total of 8.
8 of the
Suttons, correct.
Yes. 2 of those. How many of them did we repurpose already?
Morning, John Kane, Deputy Chief of Fire. We've repurposed 2 in recent years, where we've taken, we've reused, as the chief mentioned, aerials, motors, transmissions, and there was some savings built into that. However, with the advent of new emissions regulations, we're no longer able, moving forward, to take old motors and repurpose them. So that savings, unfortunately, is no longer available to us.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you, Chief, to do the same thing that DPW is doing. If you can get us a running list. Oh, you have it. Good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So even the frontline fleet that we have, those are apparatus that we've already repurposed. We've literally have done everything to be more efficient. The stuff we already have. When I get a capital project, we spend all of our money. If you guys appropriate this money to me, this money will be spent on the fire trucks. And I know I'm asking on behalf of the fire department, but these fire trucks are for the people. There's no benefit to the firefighters. They're gonna benefit our residents, our citizens, and I just ask that you can really strongly consider voting for this on Monday.
The only point that you did a good job articulating your need, but the only thing I expected you to hear that I didn't hear was the ISO. So do you want to spike the ball with the ISO?
Yep, I can get into the ISO. So for those who don't know, the ISO rating, it's a company that goes around and they basically evaluate our fire department and the protection that we provide, and based on the rating, it lowers insurance rates for homeowners and businesses. We have the highest ISO rating in the country. Less than 1% of all fire departments in the whole country have this rating. Not sticking to the program and letting this trajectory of our fleet going down in this direction, we wouldn't be meeting our what we told them we would do when they came and evaluated us. So the ISO is a huge part of this program.
Now, what's the turnaround once?
Okay, I was going to get into that. So the first thing I was going to say was we got the pricing locked in at 2019. Secondly, to build a brand new aerial tower is going to take 14 to 16 months. So once you approve it, we have to get a PO. We have to send the purchase order over to the manufacturer. It's going to take 14 to 16 months. In that time, we're hoping that it doesn't happen, but we're balancing every night. Our maintenance team is going home every night hoping that we don't run out of fire trucks. So until we get these in place in 16 months, it's going to be an issue. The actual engines, the Spartan engines that are in front of you, those are going to be refurbished. They're two of our two of the oldest that are on that list. They're actually going to go out and get repurposed. Those take between 12 and 14 months. So once you say yes, it's going to take, we're not going to see these fire trucks until next February at the earliest, and that's with no hiccups, no issues in any of the production. So that's why it's so critical to, consider voting yes for this.
Can you talk a little bit, last night when we met, you talked about the benefit of refurbishing over buying a new one and how much the city would save taking this route?
Yes, and like I said, we've refurbished, 1, 2, 3, including with these apparatus we have here, close to 7 apparatus. Based on that, if we couldn't do things and I have a gentleman that works for us. He's great. He actually used to work for the fire truck manufacturer. I'll bring up, he's District Chief Zach Smith. He can answer any questions regarding this refurbishment, and I think he'll be able to answer any questions you have. This is District Chief Zachary Smith.
Good afternoon.
Not to interrupt you guys, I'm just going to jump in here for a quick minute because we have our reorganizational meeting and everything at 12:45. So maybe we can.
Yeah, we will have committee meetings soon to move them along. But
I just want to reiterate, I'm just hopeful that we can vote for this on Monday.
yes, we will take care of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you. So next item.
Item. So we just did 30, 31, 32, and we're going to 33.
34,
Yeah,
right?
34.
34. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm First Deputy Chief with the Syracuse Police Department. Want to welcome the 3 new councilors. Been working with you for quite some time. I won't tell you how long I've been working with Councilor Hogan because it would give away our age.
I'm glad you're not going to mention that, Chief.
No problem. So 34 is the Syracuse University Dome Traffic Control contract. Just a brief history. It was the contract was worked on and signed over a decade ago, which involves which involved the city paying the first $150,000 of this contract, and then SU would begin to reimburse. We renegotiated it several weeks ago, where the city would pay the first $100,000, and then the SU would begin to reimburse. However, there were still some concerns with that, valid concerns. So Syracuse University, in going with their attempt to be a good partner with the city, has eliminated that clause whatsoever. So they will begin to pay it at zero. They will pay the total cost, reimburse the city for the total cost of this dome contract.
Chief, you're talking about, I'd like to commend the council, you're talking at the urging of the council to revise that contract, that the university has decided to pay the whole cost to the police, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I like to commend the council, and it's indeed ironic that $100,000 seems to be an interesting number.
That's a loaded statement.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question about, this is for all regular season games events. There were talks previously about any postseason, if we were to get, any, March Madness, NIT, anything like that, that we would then incur take on the cost of that. Is that still the case?
That is still the case. That's good. Yeah, that's still the case. It's not part of this contract.
Okay.
Any other questions about 34? Nope.
All right.
Nope. 35 is a contract for another camera project. This is the camera project. It's the second one that's going up in the Syracuse University off-campus area. It has 8 cameras total. The total amount is as you can see, is $100,488. That money has been gifted to the city by Syracuse University to put up these cameras. So they will be in addition to the cameras that are already in the university area. I do have a map that I can email to you once the council's over with, or as soon as I walk out of here, I'll email you this. It shows the location of all 8 cameras for this project.
What would be the ETA for actual install of these cameras? I know it takes a long time.
Yeah,
That's kind of why I'm
sure. I think it's probably it's either the second or third camera project that we have in line right now. So it's down on the list, but the 2 in front of it are rather small projects. So I would imagine March, probably March, depending on the weather. Yeah.
I mean, Chief, the issue is a lot, is you have to deal with National Grid on these issues, because I talked to Officer Amadon, who's in charge of the in charge of that. And as far as Merriman Avenue and a few of those other places, they're still on board, right? That's still a priority?
They are still on board, Counselor, but it is the one thing we can't control. So everything else we can control, trades, Kevin Henry does a great job of getting stuff hooked up there. Everything we can control except that component. So the answer to your question is they are still on board, but we have projects right now, too, that are waiting for them to do the hookups.
Is there any kind of, any person I can call, Chief, to
Yeah,
maybe?
sure. I will get back to you on that. We just want to make sure, a lot of it had to do with weather and then the holidays and things like that. So let me just check, and then if we need to bring you in, that would be great.
Thanks, Chief.
Sure.
Cameras need to go up on South and Rockland, ASAP.
Thank you, Rich.
People are getting shot over there.
Item 36. Item 36?
Sure. Item 33 is a request for $10,000 to use.
So, I don't know if we discussed it maybe in a committee meeting or during budget process in, one of the few years that I've been here. Have we looked into or talked about further about actually building our own, facility to do this? Because I know that there are plenty of other municipalities that look for places to train. I think it's probably something where we can get something that's state-of-the-art, that we can cater towards our own needs, and that probably a lot of people around the area would pay good money to come use and train at. Do we have land, around, maybe it's a bigger discussion, but, it just seems, rather than just spend $10,000 each year or more, depending on what the costs increase, that to look into purchasing, using land maybe that we already have, and building a facility that we could actually then create some type of revenue off of.
Sure. It's a great point. That conversation started November of last year, so it's kind of early, but we are looking to do just that.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right on all those points. Every agency around the area would begin to use that if it was top of the line.
There are people outside of the county that want.
Yes, exactly.
Chief, do we pay for their commute to the location as well?
They usually jump, depending on what training it is, they jump in a van and go out there. So, but you're paying for their day. You're still paying them because they're on duty, going out to train.
But that's another benefit to Councilor Carney's idea. If it was nearby, you're saving that time.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I will tell you this too: if it's nearby, we often lose days, training days. If you have an officer that's got to go out to Fulton, that officer may lose the next day if he's on certain shift. If we had a local gun range where they could go basically get pulled off their shift to go qualify, they could come right back on their shift, and you wouldn't lose man hours at all, either. So it's a great point. It's something we're discussing and studying.
Line. So the first and second in the pipeline, one of those is the South Ave corridor, right?
It's my understanding.
So it should
is,
be there by March for.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just wanted to.
Now, just the last one, Chief. I understand when, just going back a little bit for the cameras, I forgot, that when you put a camera in, there's supposed to be an infrastructure already in place. Is that true?
There's supposed to be, it depends, yes, we always have to hook into something. Okay. So in some cases, like this one that's in front of you today, there's already cameras up there. So if we can tap into a repeater, then we're good to go. But if we're going into a new area, which South Ave is, we have to look for some type of structure, whether it's a school or something else that we can repeat back to the building. Because eventually all that video footage has to get its way back to the PSB. So yes.
All set?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 37 through 40. Item 37.
Good afternoon, counselors. My name is Hannah Gardy. I'm the Innovation Project Lead with the API office. Item number 37 is asking for approval for the application and agreement with the United States Conference of Mayors to apply and enter an agreement with the for the 2020 Dollar-Wise Innovation Grant for Economic Mobility. Those grant dollars would be used to pilot test solutions in reevaluating the city's fines and fees structure, including the scope of the equity and impact of our current fines and fees structure, particularly the impact on the efficiency of our revenue collection and the equity of impact on our low-income community.
What's the time frame for this grant? Like, how long will it take for you guys to implement this?
So with this fines and fees project. There are currently a few other cities across the country that are engaging in similar work. If we did join a cohort of cities that were working on that together, I think they're going to be starting to kind of do preliminary data collection and project planning starting in March.
Okay. All
Any
right,
other
thank you.
questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you. And item 38.
Good afternoon, Councilor Stephanie Pasquale, Neighborhood and Business Development. Are there any questions about this item?
Would you be able to just give an overview? I know last time you talked about it before, but just for a refresher.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were still going. Sure. So as you guys may recall, during phase 1 of the Cities Rise initiative, we went through a planning process to identify some innovative code enforcement strategies and included some an on-site training that a team from the city went to housing stability issues. This next phase of the program allows funding from the Enterprise Foundation to allow us to continue our work with the Center for Court Innovation, in which they'll be able to hire some community ambassadors. These are folks that were at these kitchen table talks and participated, and will be able to do more door-to-door outreach and really help people where they're at with any code enforcement or other housing stability issues.
Okay, with the special project support, that's the kitchen table talks, correct? On the
Yes,
grid
it
that's on the
is,
paper?
yes.
Okay, and for the year, I know last year was just kind of a pilot, so you didn't do it the full year, but for a year, how many of these do you guys think you'll do within the year, the kitchen table talks?
So the kitchen table talk process was, and I think they will continue to do some of those. This is really that next empowerment level, is that some of the folks that participated to help them develop as leaders in the community and to provide a more trusted conduit to tenants and residents in the neighborhoods around how do I solve my problem, how do I get what I need accomplished through either if it's code enforcement or through if they need legal assistance through the Volunteer Lawyers Project, for example, or other mechanisms in order for them to stay in their housing or to improve the quality of their housing. So there's, in terms of widgets, we're still trying to figure out how many outreach points that they can make per month once they get trained and together. But we'd be happy to give you those projections. I think we're still trying to work out exactly what level of activity can we expect once folks are trained in that approach.
Okay. All right. And will this be your last day, or will you be here on Monday?
No, I'll be here on Monday. My last day is next Wednesday.
Okay, so we'll wait for Monday for the hugs and the tears and
No tears.
all of that.
You'll be seeing me a lot. So, any
all
other
right, thank
questions?
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 39.
Good afternoon, councilors. My name is Kate Auwater. I'm the preservation planner for the city. This is a request to enter into contract with Environmental Design and Research, or EDR, to conduct phase 2 of the Comprehensive Historic Resources Survey of the city. The contract is for a do not exceed amount of $33,750, which is funded through a grant from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. The purpose of the survey is to identify and map properties that are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. This information is really valuable planning tool for us. It's helping to simplify the review of federal and state-funded projects, specifically housing projects, and it's helping us to streamline economic development and neighborhood renewal initiatives. As I said, this is phase 2. We just wrapped up phase 1. Phase 1, we wrapped it up in September, and it included neighborhoods all neighborhoods in the city north of I-690. This phase 2 will include all of the western neighborhoods as well as portions of the southern neighborhoods of the city down as far as Ballantyne. Phase 3, actually, you'll see me again probably in March. We'll then be addressing the valley and the east side of the city. So in October, we sent out an RFP for phase 2, and 3 companies responded, and EDR was selected by the committee, the RFP committee, based on their qualifications and experience as well as their cost, and we're quite confident they'll be able to give us a quality product. So Are there any questions?
So I was curious, so you've just completed phase 1, you said, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that information as of now? Do you kind of, does that interact
So-
with the public at all, or is just wait
it-
until both phases are done?
So what I've done with the information is help to update I used it to update our IPS, or our database of historic resources. And then they also, based on the findings, they identified 44 additional properties that are eligible for the National Register, which brings it to about 100 on the north side.
North side?
On the north side. What I'm hoping to do within this year is to then go, they also, the consultants who did phase 1 also identified 2 potential historic districts. One is Shotwell Park, and the other one is Franklin Square. And so I am planning on addressing or going to the neighbors in Shotwell to begin with to talk about National Register actual nomination and the positive benefits of the residential tax credits that would be available to them if we were able to move forward with that. So it's not, as of yet, public, but the results will become public as we move out and start talking to property owners about what it means to be eligible for the National Register.
Very cool. And I guess that was kind of my other question. When the whole study is done and et cetera, I was always kind of curious as to, so you identify those new 44 properties. Are all those property owners made aware that they have been potentially newly designated and what the implications might be, what the benefits might be, and you know what I mean?
No, yeah. So at this point, no, they've not been. But I think that it is the next logical step is to address actually all of the properties that are eligible for the National Register, what that can mean. So
traditionally, has that been practice? Like, because that's kind of just something I've been thinking about, wondering. So when something does get designated, is the current property owner made aware that they have been designated?
It really depends on the nature of how it took place. If it so usually, and what has actually spurred this survey is that a lot of this work is done through the different housing projects that are going on through the housing agencies here. So when people are applying to work with home headquarters, for example, and they will find out through that route that their property is eligible for the National Register. A lot of people do not actually move on to go onto National Register, and that is something that I would like to be able to work with people to understand that it is really a net positive for them. Yeah.
Okay, I know my fellow councilors will move on. So.
All right, so we'll call that ready.
Okay, thank you.
And item 40.
Afternoon, councilors. Michelle Spansky, Neighborhood and Business Development.
Hi. You can. That's a lot of paper. That was a lot of paper. All right. Did you have an update on that one at all?
We attempted to reach correspondence with them at I believe on the 12th of December, and we still were not able to get a hold of them. There
Okay.
hasn't been any payment activity.
Okay, so we'll call that item ready.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn our study session.
So moved.
Second? And now we're going to move on to our organizational meeting. All in favor?
Aye. Did I go to the other desk for organization?
Yes.